Hi guys, today I will be sharing how to make special Ube Chiffon Flan cupcake. So this flan is made the day before I make the cupcake. I have a specific recipe for this. I'll put in the description box on where you can find this recipe. This flan is really smooth with no air bubbles in the flan. So again, I'll put the link in the description box. With the small flan, I steam it for 13 minutes, and with the other flan, the oval flan, I steam it for 20 minutes in low heat. So cover this with foil before steaming. So you need a steamer for this. For this cupcake recipe, we're only going to use the small round flan. The oval flan, we'll use it for another recipe. This is 2.5 tablespoons of ube halaya or ube jam, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1.5 teaspoon of baking powder, 3 drops of gel food coloring purple, ube flavoring, 6 tablespoons of sugar, 1 1/4 cup of cake flour, 6 tablespoons of water, 1/4 cup of oil, and 4 egg yolks. To begin, combine the dry ingredients, which is the cake flour, baking powder, and salt. Give it a mix and then set this aside. We will sift this later. In a separate bowl, whisk together the egg yolks and the sugar. Continue whisking this until it becomes light pale yellow, just like this. Now we're going to add the ube halaya. To make this, I'll put the link in the description box on how to make this. I've done the ube halaya many times before. To this, I'm adding 1 teaspoon of ube flavoring. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. So mix the ingredients together. At this point, we can add food coloring. I'm using violet food coloring. This is optional. I just want my cupcakes to be vibrant purple. So that's 3 drops. Mix well. At this point, we can add the vegetable oil. Add the water. Finally, sift in the dry ingredients. Using a spatula, mix the ingredients gently until it is just combined. Set this aside while we move on to the meringue. For the meringue, we need 1/2 teaspoon of cream of tartar, 6 tablespoons of sugar, and 4 egg whites. So beat the egg whites until it is frothy. Once it is frothy, we can add the cream of tartar. Continue beating for at least a minute, and then gradually add the sugar. By the way, your oven should be preheated at 170 degrees Celsius. Once the sugar is all in, continue beating this until you reach the stiff peak stage. This is now our stiff peak stage. We're going to combine the batter with the meringue in 3 or 2 additions using the folding method. Do not overmix this or else the meringue will deflate. This is the last addition of the meringue. And this is now ready. So I have a cupcake pan lined with parchment paper. I'm going to fill each hole about 3/4 of the way full. And then I'm going to bake this in a preheated oven at 170 degrees Celsius for about 20 to 25 minutes, or until when you insert the skewer in the middle and the skewer comes out clean. This is what it looks like after baking. Let it cool down completely. This recipe makes about 18 large cupcakes. So while this is cooling down, we're going to move on with the icing. I'm going to make Swiss meringue buttercream. I'm going to make this fast because I've done this last week. So that's 100 grams of egg whites and 200 grams of sugar. I'm going to cook this over a double boiler until the sugar is dissolved. Once the sugar is all dissolved, take it out of the heat, and then using a handheld mixer, whisk this until it cools down. Once it cools down, you can gradually add the butter. The butter is 300 grams, room temperature, unsalted. So at this point, your butter will turn into liquid, but don't be discouraged. Keep on mixing, and then it will change texture and it will hold its shape eventually. Just like this. Now, to the icing, I'm going to add 1.5 teaspoon of ube flavoring. At first, I'm adding 1 teaspoon and then I'll taste this. So for me, it's not enough. Also, don't forget to scrape the side of the bowl so we make sure that everything is being mixed properly. So taste it. Alright, now I'm adding 1/2 teaspoon of ube flavoring. And for me, the taste is now perfect. So at this point, I'm going to add 3 drops of gel food coloring. But it's up to you if you want to add gel food coloring. The food coloring is optional. Okay, set this aside. Put the icing into a piping bag. And this is our flan that I made last night. I'm taking it out of the lanera. So I baked all the cupcakes. At this point, I'm going to create a hole in the middle. This is optional. You don't have to do this. This is just an extra step. Don't discard the trimmings. We're gonna use the top to cover the cupcake hole. So I've got ube halaya in here. I'm filling each hole with ube halaya. Again, I'm gonna put the link in the description box how to make this ube halaya using dehydrated ube. Now cover the top with the trimmings. Now it's time to ice the ube cupcakes. I have a piping bag in here, and then I've got 1A straight tip. If you don't have 1A, just use the piping bag and then snip the ends of the piping bag. So now with the flan, this is optional if you want to cut your flan. For me, I'm cutting this in quarters. You can use the full flan in each cupcake, but it's gonna be costly. You can use half, you can use quarters. Just to show you what the flan looks like. As you can see, it's really smooth. There's not a single bubbles on the leche flan. Now add the flan on top of the cupcakes. If you want to put buko strings or makapuno, it's also good. My hands are clean. I wash this every procedure that I do. So this is the finished product. This is really good. It's so easy to make. There's just a lot of preparation that needs to be done. But I hope you give this a try. I can guarantee that you're going to love this. And just to show you what it looks like inside the cupcake. You can see the ube halaya in the middle. The cupcake is very light and moist. This is not very sweet, just perfect. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you do like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. I'll see you again next week. Bye!